Welcome back to the Pocket Pod. Is Pokemon Pocket a little too basic? Also, is Misty a problem? We'll go over our thoughts. And then balance changes as a concept. Will they be here? What will they do? Could they be healthy for the game? And things they need to fix. I will be joined by my good friend Willow. Let's jump into it. How are you doing, Willow?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, Dekkster? How's your week been?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to talk about Pocket. The game's coming out soon in 9 days at the time of recording this. So pretty hyped for the official launch and to hear more about their thoughts and just the future of Pocket. I've been hearing about a lot of people saying that maybe Pokemon Pocket is too basic.
Yeah, that's been a topic of discussion even since before the game was out. Like a lot of Pokemon TCG players would like look at the cards in Pokemon Pocket and be like, "Wow, there's basic Pokemon without abilities on them. What's going on there?" Yeah, I mean the games are definitely streamlined compared to the paper TCG, but even people who aren't viewing it from the paper TCG lens, people who are jumping in for the first time, seem to, especially now that we've had a few weeks with the game, talks about the game being too basic have started to pop up. Do you have any big major thoughts?
I mean, I feel like I've never played the actual Pokemon TCG, the non-Pocket version, which I hear is way more complex, and it makes a lot of sense. You know, you actually draw energy, there's larger decks. This is a much more simplified version, more casual friendly, and I think that's good. It brings people into the game, like me, who had never played it before, and maybe it was a little too daunting to play the actual card game or the physical version. And it's made me excited for the future. It is kind of basic right now, but as they start adding new cards, new abilities, new trainers, new stuff, I feel like it can get quite complex really quick. That's how I feel. Did you play the original or the physical?
No, I played like a very small amount when I heard about Pocket coming out because I was excited about Pocket, so I kind of wanted to dip my toes in. But no, I've never put any serious amount of time into the Pokemon TCG. I actually, a competitive Pokemon TCG player and I did a video together where I showed him Pokemon Pocket cards and had him review them, and then he showed me Pokemon trading card game cards and review them. And yeah, they've got some wild effects in the Pokemon trading card game that are way beyond the scale of what we have in Pokemon Pocket right now. My perspective is pretty similar to yours, which is that I think even if it is the case that the game is too basic right now, which I'm not sure if I believe that or not, but let's say, for example, that the game is too basic, I think that's not necessarily a problem for set 1. There's only like 200 or so cards in the game right now. It's supposed to be our base set. This is the core of what Pokemon Pocket is, and we haven't seen the building blocks that will be set 2 or any mini sets or anything like that. As we get more and more cards, complexity will grow in certain areas, and I think that's totally okay.
Yeah, I think that's gonna change a lot. Like, for example, Onyx isn't very good, but maybe when Steelix comes out, maybe Onyx will be quite formidable, or something like Seadra is kind of bad at the moment, but maybe when Kingdra comes out, maybe all of a sudden Seadra is quite good. So yeah, I feel like it's a really solid base. To me, it personally reminds me of like Hearthstone. When Hearthstone first came out, it was very basic. You know, you played things that were 3/5, stuff like Boulder Fist Ogre, and you were kind of happy about it. But then now the game is like so different. They've changed so much about it. So it seems like a really good, solid start. Maybe like cards like Starmie are a little too good, but all in all, I think it's a solid start, and I'm excited to see where it goes, because there's so much potential. And I mean, they could release like one expansion a month and it would be years and years before they would run out of content. I'm not sure that'd be great. That might be too fast because the game will become not as free-to-play friendly. But
it's a bit of a side tangent, but if you notice, when you click on a card here, click on any of the Genetic Apex cards, literally any one of them, and then scroll down here, sorry for the audio-only listeners, there's a section on here that says series, I wonder if that'll be used for future rotations. So, for example, like when they do a rotation, only Series B cards will be playable versus, Series A will rotate out or something like that. That's just something I thought about while we were talking about the idea of like the base set.
Is everything Series A right now?
Yes, right now, literally everything is Series A.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I hadn't thought about that before.
Yeah, it's just
like we really have to hear about their plans for expansions, rotations, stuff like that. It's all kind of up in the air right now.
It's clear that they have plans because of stuff like this, and when you search for a card on the any of the collection screens or whatever, you can filter for Pokemon tools. Right, and there are no Pokemon tools in the game. If you scroll down to trainer cards there, if you click on Pokemon tool and you hit OK, nothing will pop up. There's no cards in there that are Pokemon tools. So they've obviously got plans. They have future cards designed and content coming to the game, etc. But they just haven't communicated those plans. And the lack of communication, I think, is probably a fine thing right now. The game's not out. Where everyone playing the game right now. Well, not everyone, but the vast majority of people playing the game right now. Terms of service breakers who are just playing the game a little bit early, so it is what it is.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. I think they'll be quite communicative. I've heard good things about just Pokemon in general as far as their communication. So we'll have to see. How do you feel about Misty? Maybe we should jump into Misty. This is a hot topic.
Yeah.
Or just complaints in general, but maybe starting with Misty, a strong supporter trainer card that I feel like all water Pokemon are kind of built around. A lot of them just require more energy, and I think it's because Misty exists. When I use Misty personally, I always get tails, and then when my opponents use them, they get like 3 heads in a row. It's probably selective memory. A lot of times my opponents whiff, and I'm just, throwing my fist in the air in happiness. But yeah, Misty can kind of be a bit out of hand, or just too strong sometimes. How do you feel about her?
I think the math on Misty is fine. Like if you look at it purely from an analytical standpoint, the numbers make sense. About half of the time you get 0 energy, about half the time you get 1 energy, and then there's a drop off from there where you can get more energy. The craziest thing is that you can target any water Pokemon. I've heard like people who are clearly I mean this in the nicest way, anybody who's ever had this thought, okay? Some players who are clearly not the best mathematicians say things that like, oh, they should nerf Misty by making it so she's a guaranteed water attachment. She only attaches 1 energy. But that would just be the craziest buff in the universe. Misty would become an infinitely better card. And honestly, because of where they've put Misty, it's kind of a really difficult card to balance. But yeah, I think mathematically speaking, she's in a good spot. It just feels really bad when she high rolls, and it feels really bad when she low rolls for you. So it's kind of just like a feels bad card. On when someone plays this card, one of the 2 players is going to feel really good, and one of the 2 players is going to feel really bad. And that can feel bad from a player POV. You're a Hearthstone guy, so you'll know what I'm about to say. This card reminds me a lot of Implosion, where a lot of the upside of the card is hidden before you play the card. So you don't really, it's hard to evaluate whether or not you should play the card or what the outcome is going to be before you play the card, which can feel really, really bad from either player's perspective. Yeah. But it is a very exciting card to play. So.
I've noticed a lot of people are like playing the Articuno 18T card or deck or whatever, and they just throw out Articuno. They have Misty. If they hit tails, they just retreat, or they like.
Oh really?
They're just out. Yeah, that's happened to me a lot. Where people turn 1, they Misty. If they whiff, they just leave.
I don't find these players.
Really, it must be in the high MMRs. Only,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, so. I don't know. Misty's kind of similar to Brock, I guess. If you were talking about that rework where she would just guarantee 1 water energy, I guess they would have to do it so it's a little bit more restricted, like attach 1 water to Starmie and Golduck, or
It also like the design of the other water Pokemon in the game, of the water Pokemon in the game, gets gets kind of hurt if they changed Misty like that. They made it so she only attached 1 energy, because there's things that they want you to be doing with Misty. They want you to play your Blastoise and go to like a crazy 5 energy. They want you to play your Lapras and go to 4 energy. They want you to be able to, they want to encourage these types of gameplay patterns. So if you make it just like a guaranteed 1 cost attachment, A, I think you're buffing the card, and B, it like worsens that design flavor that they're going for with water, which is that you want to keep stacking energy up on a single Pokemon.
Yeah, I think they would have to rework all of water if they changed Misty. Like Gyarados requiring 4 energy.
Yeah.
That's just never going to happen. I mean, people don't really play Gyarados though because he does require 4, and if you just hit 1 on your Misty, it still kind of feels bad. So
yeah, I mean, Pokemon like Gyarados and Lapras and Blastoise that are all designed around these like high energy counts are just going to feel so much worse without like the high rolls that Misty has available to her. There is, I feel like it would be silly for us to not mention this. Personally, I don't think this is a problem, but a lot of people have this problem specifically with Misty, which is that she's the only card in the game right now who enables the ability to attack on turn 1. Where no other Pokemon in the game has the ability to attack on turn 1, but if you Misty and you land your coin flip, and you land 2 coin flips, things from 1 or 2 costs can start attacking, and then there's the ultra high roll scenarios where people get to blizzard you and kill you on turn 1 because of a Misty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel good, but statistically speaking, it won't happen very often, right? So yeah, I don't know. There's trade-offs.
I think that's the only time you want to go first. Is basically that, because what's the other benefit of going first is that you can evolve first, but it's like you're generally, when you evolve, things cost more.
There's a couple strategies that care about evolving sooner rather than later, who I think do prefer to go first. The certain Dragonite strategies really like going first. Oh my god, why is my brain failing me at the moment? Moltres decks can like going first because it can change their math of how quickly Charizard gets out. Oh my god, what's the one I'm thinking of? There's one big important card that likes evolving really. Mewtwo Gardevoir. Mewtwo Gardevoir going first can feel really good. So yeah, there's going to be decks that don't mind going first, but generally speaking, most decks are going to prefer going second.
Yeah, I guess getting your Gardevoir online really quickly is quite nice, or maybe like your Magneton or something like that.
Yeah,
pretty good.
These types of cards that have abilities after evolving, getting those online a little sooner is nice.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. But I feel like generally going second is still pretty good. I mean, even in Hearthstone, it's like going second, you get a coin, which gives you 1 extra energy, and sometimes it's just hard to balance around. I think last I played Hearthstone, if you went first, your win rate, I think, was way higher.
Really?
Like over a large sample size, going first had like a 55% win rate, and going second had like a 45% win rate or something like that.
I'd be really
unless you were
curious
playing
to see stats like that for Pocket.
Yeah, unless you were playing something that had a great benefit from going second. For example, I don't want to talk too much about Hearthstone, but it's like Rogue really liked having coin.
Yeah,
because you could combo. But
one quick thing while we're still on Misty. Misty is actually like a really good summary for how different the design philosophy is in Pokemon Pocket as opposed to something like Marvel Snap, where the Marvel Snap dev team talked a lot about how they wanted to limit basically the ranges of feeling bad and good on either side. They were okay if like the heights weren't as exciting, like one player being super excited, as long as that meant the average happiness in the game is increased by the opponent not being as upset. Where this game, they're just like, well, we're okay if someone feels bad because the other player feels really good.
Yeah. There's a lot of like literal coin flips in this, and I think they can feel pretty bad. Like if your opponent keeps putting you to sleep with Hypno and you just can't hit heads, like it's kind of devastating, and it's a bit frustrating where you're just like, oh my god, how did I fail 3 times in a row? And then you just lose.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's coin flips in every card game. This is just a lot more literal. Like you literally see a coin flip.
Yeah, I try to use that
so
terminology a lot for people in Twitch chat and stuff. It's like when people ask about the coin flips in the game, I always revert back to this one phrase, which is that every card game has coin flips, Pokemon's just transparent about it. They just show you the coin flip that are happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about balance changes as a concept? I think people told me in my chat, they might have been lying. They're just like, they've confirmed there's going to be no balance changes.
I know. Yeah. I know the statement they're talking about, but they're misinterpreting it a little bit. So there was an event, I believe it was in New York. A bunch of Pokemon creators got invited to it before the soft launch of Pokemon Pocket. And those creators got to ask a bunch of questions, and one of the questions that the creators asked was, how do you guys feel about balance changes? Are you going to make nerfs and buffs and these types of things? And the vibe from that event, from what I can tell, was generally they want to avoid balance changes unless something is ultra critical. So if something completely breaks the game, or if there's some crazy unintended interaction that like people stop playing this deck and it has like a crazy win rate and it's the majority of what you see on ladder, then they'll do something about it. But it would need to be, the vibe that I get is that something would need to be fundamentally game breaking for them to come in and change it, as opposed to like something just being stronger than the average card.
I guess it kind of makes sense. I mean, the physical has done so well, and I think the metas are kind of healthy, and they can only ban cards, right?
Yeah.
But it's just, I feel like it's a missed opportunity. Like that's one of the benefits of having digital, is that you can do a slight tweak where a card has 10 less HP or 10 more HP or 10 less attack or 10 more attack. Like nobody's playing Nidoking, but maybe if you give Nidoking 10 more HP, you might have like a solid B tier deck.
Yeah, especially because there's such a huge difference between having like 150 health and 160 health. Like now you survive Mewtwo hit, which feels way better than not being able to survive a Mewtwo hit. Yeah, just being able to like tweak those numbers, I think would feel quite nice. I think the reason they're so reluctant to adjust numbers, especially in minor ways like that, is because they want things like trading. They want these kind of like social elements that make the game feel more like a physical card game. And if you implement something like trading, and then let's say within 24 hours of me trading away my super cool crown rare Charizard, or I trade up to like a crown rare Charizard, and then they nerf the card, it's like, wow, I just got rid of my crown rare Mewtwo for this crown rare Charizard, and now this Charizard is nerfed. And even if the card's still playable, you know how, you and I have played enough card games that we know if a card's nerfed, no one wants to touch that card. Even if it's still a perfectly fine card, the second a card gets nerfed, no one wants anything to do with it.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. And then like, also if people are more free to play, and they just build one deck or whatever, then, that card gets nerfed, their Pikachu or whatever, then they can't really play their Pikachu deck anymore, or it just sucks now, and then they quit the game. So that kind of makes sense. But I would still like balance changes, but I think that kind of depends on the cadence of like, is there going to be a mini set once a month or every other month, or is there going to be a full set every 3 months, or is it going to be every 4 months? Because that'll keep the game fresh.
I will say they have kind of like a pseudo balance change thing happening that we can already see, which is that the upcoming promo cards, which I think we talked about in episode 1, that's kind of like a balance change. When they release like a new Jigglypuff, that's kind of rebalancing Jigglypuff. If the new Jigglypuff is just better than the old Jigglypuff, you have the ability to play either one. But it's also kind of like buffing and nerfing in the sense that if there's a strictly better one, well, that's the one you run now. It won't always be the case that any of these new release cards are better than the previous ones. Sometimes they'll just be worse, but I think that might be like a lens that they view balance changes. Like if Nidoking is bad and they still want Nidoking to be good, they can print like a new Nidoking that has a relatively similar effect, but is somehow different, especially if they're willing to do like, an EX Nidoking or something like that to kind of fill those gaps. And it's kind of a fundamentally new card, but it's also kind of balance changing. It's in kind of a weird spot if they do multi-prints like that. But
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because like this Jigglypuff sucks and no one's going to run it, but the next one's going to be pretty dang good, I think. Just constantly putting things to sleep for only 1 energy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good point. Just print more cards.
Yeah, I would like a new Bulbasaur and a new Ivysaur, please, because the current Bulbasaur Ivysaur line annoys me so much that it's 2 cost into 3 cost into 4 cost. So, I'm looking out for the first reprints of Bulbasaur and Ivysaur as soon as possible, please.
Yeah, an Ivysaur that could attack with 2 or a Bulba with 1. That might be way too good though. Venusaur is so strong
Yeah.
once he comes online.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. How do you feel about other changes in the game, such as EX Pokemon maybe not starting in your opening hand? Because with the physical card game, to my understanding, if you draw a hand and you have no Pokemon, you like mulligan your entire hand and you draw again, and then your opponent also gets to draw 1 card because you didn't.
Yeah, there's kind of a built-in punishment in the Pokemon trading card game for limiting the number of Pokemon in your deck, which is that mulligan that you just talked about. The less Pokemon you have, the less likely you are to have a Pokemon in your opening hand, which means you're more likely to mulligan, and every time you mulligan, you're forcing your opponent to draw a card. Well, not forcing, you're allowing them to draw a card. In Pokemon Pocket, we don't have anything like that, so every basic Pokemon in our deck, or a basic Pokemon is guaranteed to show up in our opening hand, so we can build our deck in such a way that we force EX Pokemon and get a huge tempo advantage with, starting the game with like an Articuno EX or a Zapdos EX or whatever. And to be honest, when I first noticed that gameplay pattern, it was on stream and I started freaking out. I was like, man, the meta is going to be awful. It's always going to be basic EX Pokemon. This is the only way to play the game. But I've definitely softened my stance on that. And at first I was like, man, I hope they do some type of fundamental rule change, like don't let EX Pokemon show up in your opening hand, which means as a consequence of that, they would force you, it would have to be the case that you would have to have some number of non-EX basic Pokemon in your deck as well, or else you wouldn't be able to start the game with any Pokemon. But then, yeah, like I said, I've softened my stance on it. I will say if they do make a fundamental rule change, which I'm not sure if they should, but if they do make a fundamental rule change, the fundamental rule change I would go with is at the very minimum like a basic number Pokemon count. So like, I don't know if that count should be, you have to have 4 basic Pokemon or 5 basic Pokemon or something like that. But like whatever that rule is, it would, because basically a lot of like good decks right now are all about limiting the number of basic Pokemon you have to clean up opening hand math and Pokeball math. And yeah, basically I'm just curious how different deck building would look if they had a blanket rule like that. But I'm also not sure if it's entirely necessary. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of wish the EX Pokemon didn't start in your hand, and I kind of wish the punishment of if you don't draw a Pokemon, your opponent draws a card. I wish that was kind of a thing. I think that'd make it so you are just encouraged to play more Pokemon in your deck, because I sometimes you just run like 6 Pokemon and that's like the optimal build. But I was looking at physical deck lists and I was noticing even in like a 60 card deck or whatever, a lot of people still only run like 9 Pokemon. So maybe that's just how the card game is.
Yeah, the physical card game is a little bit different to evaluate, because even though they have 60 card decks, half of their trainers read like search for this specific thing, like search for a basic Pokemon, or search for a stage 1 Pokemon, or search for a Pokemon with 90 or less health, or something like that. They have so much card search in that game that like as long as you get 1 in your opening hand, that's all they're looking for. They're not really looking for like their other pieces, because they're bound to find their other pieces with one of their search tools.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was kind of more just thinking, yeah, like EXs don't start or aren't guaranteed in your opening hand. Like you will draw basic, but maybe it's fine. Maybe just like some new stuff coming out will make it feel better. I think the main reason I feel like that is because of Mewtwo. Mewtwo's a really strong opener. Especially if you can draw the Gardevoir line really quickly, or the Articuno thing. Not even like Zapdos or Moltres. I guess Moltres is kind of an issue, but more so Articuno, and then just your opponent blowing you out with a strong Misty start.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm just jaded towards the Misty thing.
I think it feels really bad right now because there's so few number of basic EX Pokemon. Oh, sorry. Yeah, basic EX Pokemon. So if you're not doing that as a part of your strategy, it feels like unfair when other people are doing it. But if we get like 2 or 3 sets down the line and there's a lot of basic EX Pokemon, it might just be the case that like every deck has some engine that involves a basic EX Pokemon. And yeah, it might feel a lot more fair if every strategy has the ability to do it, basically.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair. Yeah, I'm really curious to see the future of this game. It's got so much potential, so maybe nothing needs to be tweaked just yet. Not on the base vanilla set here, But yeah, we'll have to see. If an expansion comes out before the year's over, I think that'd be pretty sick. Maybe around like December. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm hoping for December. December, I think, is like kind of the perfect time. It gives the newcomers about a month with the game without a new set, and all of the spenders will get a full collection within the first couple weeks, and all of the non-spenders will have a decent collection by the end of the first month. Seems like a good time to drop set 2 DNA. Do it.
Yeah. Please do it. So we have on here things they need to fix. Was there anything you wanted to talk about, or did we already cover it?
I got 2 big complaints that irk me so much. Okay, one is every time you edit your deck, the default energy changes to whatever it is. So if you have Psychic, Water, so like I run Dragonite a lot, and I run Hypnose in my Dragonite deck because I'm just that based. Okay, but I don't run any of my Psychic energy. And anytime I change any of the contents of my deck at all, even if I change just a trainer card or something like that, it defaults me back to having Psychic energy. And I can't tell you how many, I must have lost over 50 online matches just from like queuing, noticing I have Psychic energy, and then having to go back to the deck editor to take Psychic energy out. Yeah, it's so frustrating. All I want them to do is when you go into the deck editor and you go to your energy screen, I want there to be an additional button there that just says lock in your energy. You know what I mean? Like, just be like, I don't want you to like, the default makes sense, the fact that they default fill in energy, because the vast majority of decks aren't going to need to care about this. And then it's just much easier for the average player to have their energy automatically fill in. But for use cases like this, it is so infuriating. So I just want one button where I can be like, I don't want you to change my energy for this deck list ever, unless I do it myself. Or some, there needs to be some solution there, because it is so infuriating. Yeah, have you encountered this at all?
No. Yeah, that's a huge issue to me. I've like rejoined so many things. So right now I just kind of built the situation you're talking about. And then if I like take out my Sabrina and put in Sabrina, now my energy has gone back to putting a Psychic, and I have to remember to do that, which is just a kind of annoying as like a quality of life thing. Another thing for me is I wish when you started a new deck, like the first card you put in, maybe it would change the color
of the deck box.
Like here.
Yeah.
It's always grass, right?
No,
it doesn't matter what you put.
I'm right there with you, dude. It's so silly that the game is smart enough to recognize I have this type of energy, or I have this type of card, so I should change my energy. But it's not smart enough to change it from the grass deck box. That actually it irks me. Yeah. But I mean, that's a smaller thing because it doesn't have any impact on gameplay. But yeah, I super agree that should probably just change by default. Like when I add a fire card, the deck box should just automatically go to fire. That's
just it's a little bit of like a quality, like the green and the red, it just looks bad to me. I also wish you could do like setting favorites.
Yeah, default
or like defaults. Yeah, that'd be nice. Like setting my favorite coin, having to go back and do this every single time. Or the game is kind of built around your collection, so having to, go in here and change my Charmeleon to have this cool effect is kind of like annoying.
Yeah.
So yeah, just setting this as like default would be nice. But the game's young, technically not even globally launched. So there's time. And then another complaint I have is I feel like this is so small. Like on my phone, like this section, I need this a little bit larger, like 3 rows of cards. They can shove the energy and accessory and highlight cards all right here at the top. Give us a little bit more space here. Feels a little bit like cramped and crowded.
Yeah, all the stuff that's displaying horizontally, the coins and all that stuff, they should display that vertically next to the deck box, and then you open up a lot of space there. Also,
or maybe if you put 2 copies of a card, it could just say 2, and then having 2 rows here is just a little too much. Because like searching this, it just feels it's too tiny, and this search, I feel like this could be improved as well.
Do you know what blew my mind when I noticed that of all of these filter options, there's no way to filter for basic versus stage 2 versus EX. You can't filter for any of that. You just have to roughly like, oh, I know basic Pokemon are like 60 to 100 health or something like that, so I'll search for 60 to 100 health. There's no like filter for just I want to see basic Pokemon. It's so weird.
Yeah, and then like this search history thing, like why can't it give me a little bit more info on what my search is instead of putting the
I don't even know what this
timestamp
does. What's the point of these times? What do they do? Can you like click on them?
I think like the last thing, so right now it's showing grass, sorry, audio listeners. The last thing I searched was, I think, trainer. So I can like click that and click OK, and then it'll show trainer.
Okay.
But it doesn't tell me that's what it does. And then I don't know what my search was here. It was probably trainer again. Oh no, it was dark. But like, why doesn't it say like dark, trainer, water, or whatever? So. Yeah. But it's a young game. It's not even
stuff like that
yet.
is like nitpicky. Okay, I will say one thing that is a bit more fundamental that I really hope they revisit is in the battle screen. You're not going to be able to show this very well on screen, so I wouldn't, unless you're an absolute hero, you're going to go through all of this. But in the battle scene, the nameplate where it has like how many points each player has, it covers up. It's in the most annoying position ever. It goes across horizontally, and so it's kind of a little bit in the middle of the screen, which would kind of be okay. But all of the alerts that they displayed to you in the middle of the game, like your opponent is waiting for opponent, or like opponent couldn't draw cards because their deck is empty or something like that, all those notifications appear in the center of the screen, so it blocks off the number of victory points the opponent has. And there's a fair number of cases where like you'll be in the middle of a decision, and there'll be like a piece of text hovering over how many points my opponent has, and like the decision I'm trying to make is influenced by the number of points my opponent has. And I'm like trying to read through the slightly transparent text box of like how many. It irks me. Yeah, the victory points and the display name, that should be displayed vertically, not horizontally.
Yeah, I think a lot of the UI could be improved.
Honestly,
but I feel like that's really easy for them to do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay, we just did a lot of complaining. I want to be absolutely clear. The game looks visually stunning. The game plays fantastically. Okay, I just, just a little bit of a vent,
Yeah, no, it's a good game. It's young though. Just the UI. Yeah. But other than that, it's got a good base, good bones. I think they say. Good bones.
Yeah.
Is that what they say? Yeah.
Sure, I guess.
All right. Yeah, maybe that's it for episode 2.
Yeah. I feel like I do.
And then by the time episode 3 comes out, the game will be out.
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking about that. Episode 3 would be the release date, no?
Well, we record these on Monday, and then they kind of come out on Tuesday. So I guess.
Right. Sorry, I'm Australian. So for me.
Yeah, you're on the other side. Yeah. So maybe, I guess. Maybe. But it's coming out the 30th NA, right?
Yeah, 30th NA.
Yeah. Not Australian time.
Well, here in Australia, it will come out on the 30th of Australia. It will come out locally for you. Wherever you are in the world, it'll come out on the 30th for you.
Oh, that's okay. That's a good point. Wait, so do you get it earlier? I mean, you've already got it a month earlier, I guess.
Yeah, but it would release on my app store earlier than on your app store.
Oh, wait, I wanted to talk about the little tournament thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. We don't have the details finalized or anything, so maybe I don't talk about this yet. But I will be hosting a tournament on the 28th. That's a week from today at the time of recording. It's just the Pocket Invitational. We're inviting 16 of your favorite content creators, and then Spraggles and I will be hosting it. Willow will be participating.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of other cool content creators. So there's that. I'll show it on screen with the time and whatnot. Like all the graphics aren't finished for this, so we're working on it. But that'll be fun. Just a fun little casual event. No real prize pool, just bragging rights, and Willow's gonna win it all.
I don't know about that. I'm honestly, I'm really torn between bringing something like hyper competitive and trying to win it all versus bringing something like a pet deck of mine, like something I really love. So.
Oh, well, if you try hard and you lose, that's just embarrassing.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm thinking. I think I go with the pet deck. That way I have the cope of being like, see, like I could have won if I went super try hard, but I wanted to play with my fun Mew deck,
Yeah, I think that's a Mew deck. What the heck?
No, I was
bro.
No. I wasn't actually going to bring Mew. But.
All right. Well, yeah, there's that going on. So be sure to check that out. I'm sure I'll talk about it a lot more in the future as well. But yeah, that's about it. Thanks for listening or watching the pod, and we'll see you next episode. Say bye, Willow.
Bye.